Oh my goodness. Okay, Meredith, what is your favorite genre of music?
I love alternative and punk.
Dude, the jizz. Had I known that, I would have gone with way more of an alternative or punk song for this theme.
No,
Damn it, Janet.
you know what? I'm all about like when you're feeling the moment, you just do what you do.
Well, okay, you know what it is? Okay, I struggle with this, and I'm sure you're going to help me out, is you have to fight the need to reflect who you are more so than anything else because you want to be your authentic self. But then
Right.
you also want to be a little bit more mainstream so you're palatable for the masses, right? So this is going to be a really good conversation today. So, Meredith, are you ready for the mic is listening?
Heck yeah, I am.
All right, let's do this.
The mic is listening.
The mic is listening.
The mic is listening.
The mic is
The
listening.
mic is listening.
The 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 mic is listening.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to the mic is listening. I'm Sia, always Sia. So it'll be a surprise one day if someone else is on this show because that means I'm taking the day off or something. But anyway, well, welcome back, guys. I'm really excited about today's episode because I have been chatting with this person for a while, have never met, but I have nothing but extraordinarily exciting things to share with because whenever you connect with someone and they're cool and they actually have some really cool things to offer, you just have to share and what's that thing? Microphone it. Wait, it's as if the mic is listening. Oh my God. Megaphone. That's the word I'm looking for. You have to megaphone it. I think I'm going to start getting props because that doesn't look right. But at any rate, so here's the thing. As I was talking to this guest and I was like, you know what? I find it very interesting that because we are being asked more than ever to get some kind of digital content out there, whether we have our own personal brand or if we're part of a major corporation or if we're in sales, like me selfishly, how do you make yourself stand out in a way that, people will like you, people will get to know you, and maybe want to do business with you, right? But that doesn't flow, it doesn't come naturally for a lot of personalities. And it got me thinking about this one word, and I've heard this before, and is confidence. And I've seen so many amazing, very competent, very amazing individuals, but then you just ask them to put a video, camera in their face, and all of a sudden that confidence that you saw in them, all that wisdom, experience, etc., kind of melt away, and all of a sudden they're just staring dead eye into the camera and frozen, or they just sit there like this with no personality. They just simply answer questions and share their insights with absolutely zero tone, zero passion, zero excitement. And you know what? If that's your authentic personality, that's your brand, there's some certain strengths of that. I always say there's a lock for every key, and that means not all audiences are going to click with the same type of personality. So I'm really excited to explore what does it mean to be confident, because it's not the same across individuals. And so this will be a really intriguing conversation for me. So on that note, it's my pleasure and it's my joy to introduce Ms. Meridith Grundei. Meredith, welcome.
Hello. Well, thank you. I'm so excited. I almost welcomed you, but it's your show. Thanks for having me.
Isn't that funny when it's when you're on the other end of the spectrum, it's kind of like, oh wait, I have to behave.
Yes, I do. I'm on my best behavior right now with you.
You shouldn't be. And we talked about this before. There is no behavior as far as I'm concerned on this show, because again, if you're going to be on your best behavior, that's great. But over time, when you work with someone and you tell me this, right, you start to see who they really are very quickly over time. So it's almost like, do you want to be considered fake? I guess, well, that's your mask you're going to put on. I mean, talk to me, Goose. So Meredith, I know I'm kind of rattling on because I'm just so damn excited. So here's the deal. I met Meredith at a virtual networking. I think JD, props JD Gershbein.
Oh.
He's gonna be like, oh, please stop, lady.
Just stop right now.
I know. But I love him to death. I met him at another virtual meetup with Frank Agin's group. So it was kind of like a trail of great, amazing people that I've met over time. And you help me understand, how did you meet JD? Was it through the Second City Improv group, or did you guys are just circle? How does this work?
Well, so during the pandemic, like a lot of people, I got on Clubhouse, and he ended up we ended up in a few Clubhouse rooms together, and he popped in and out. I had an applied improv room that I ran with Hillary Blair and Izzy Gazelle, and he would pop in there sometimes. And then our relationship moved from Clubhouse to LinkedIn. And from LinkedIn, I ended up dropping into his networking group, and that's where I met you, and have since collaborated with him a couple times. It's been fantastic.
You know, what's so funny is that he is all about improv. He's got so much personality, but he's like when I first met him, he's like the antithesis of what I thought an improv performer would be, right? Like, to me, like when I see folks that say, "Oh, I do improv," I always think they're more extroverted, like they're just kind of out there. But he's so dry. He's so subtle in his humor that is like, shoot, man, that's almost like an anchor, I think, to a lot of segments, or it could be, right? So help me understand, what is the definition of improv? Like, what is it exactly?
Well, it's making something up on the spot. Essentially is improv, but in the way that I've learned it throughout my life. So just to give a little context, my background is a performer, as an actor. I was doing a lot of sketch comedy, and a friend of mine, when I was living in San Francisco, a friend of mine was like, "I'm moving to Chicago and I'm going to study improv at the Second City at what was formerly Improv Olympic and then IO, and it unfortunately has closed since the pandemic." And I said, "Well, I want to go do improv." You know, that's a lot of how like SNL sketches get made, is through, making it up at the table first and working some stuff out and then solidifying it into a sketch. And a lot of what you learned at the Second City is like that. And so I went to Chicago, I studied improv, and I learned these. So there's short form improv, there's long form improv. The short form is what most people are familiar with, because it's like the whose line is it anyway kind of stuff. And I studied long form improv, the Herald at IO Chicago. And then I ended up teaching at the Second City. I helped put together their youth program that is now really big and booming, and had a great time doing that. And then started doing it for corporations, started teaching team building workshops using improv.
Oh,
yeah.
So needed. Where were you when I was in my corporate life, man? I've come to the conclusion, like, I have to like go back to all my former employers and be like, dude, we would be so much more interesting if you actually sat us through like an improv class. I know we joke about it, but it's so 100% true. I mean, I say this every show, so hopefully by now anyone that listens will know this, but just in case, if you're new, 20 years in corporate tech sales, okay, it can be dry at times, right? Because you can only talk about bits and bytes and feeds and whatever, like, for so long. But the idea around improv is you could, if you know how to pivot. Or there's this one technique that you mentioned, and I'm like, damn it, I'm just going to call it out now, is that yes and. Like,
that yes and thing.
Yes and. Can I just tell you, yes and is such a fracking, like, it's daunting at first when you think about it, because you're like, consciously have to say yes and. But the thing is, in sales, it does make you ask questions.
It does. It opens up that curiosity. It's such a great tool to have. And a lot of when we say yes and let me just clarify this for people who are watching right now. Yes and is great for like that brainstorming, ideation phase of things, right? Like, get all the ideas out there and don't discriminate against any of them. Let all the voices be heard in the room. Then you can go back and go, okay, which ones are going to stay? Which ones are we going to try? I think that's also imperative. It's what are we going to try before we say no, because it could lead to the great idea. But it's also a great tool for just basic communication. And when I think yes and in communication, it's not like I'm going to agree with what you just said if I don't agree with it, but I'm at least going to acknowledge what you just said. I'm going to hear what you said, maybe reflect a little bit of it back, and then share with you a further curiosity, if you will, right? Because oftentimes what we do is if we immediately disagree or think opposite, we just say no, or we do the yes and but thing. So it really makes us pause and go, am I really truly present in this conversation? Am I really truly listening in this conversation? And how can I acknowledge back a portion of what was just said?
Oh my goodness gracious. You just said something that I think is key and critical to kind of gaining that confidence for those that do decide to put themselves up and out there,
Mhm.
right? Whether it's public speaking or digital virtual speaking, is that listening. It is
Yes.
shocking to me that people think we have conversations, but in reality, you're not really conversing. You're kind of talking at each other, if that makes sense. Have you seen a lot of that? And what's your suggestion when it feels like there's a conversation, but it's not flowing?
Right. So right now I would say, so I heard you say that oftentimes you'll be in a conversation, but it doesn't feel like it's flowing. Can you tell me more about what you were feeling in that moment?
So you're repeating it back and then
Mhm.
tying back an emotion to
Mhm.
help that connection.
Mhm.
You're way deeper than I intended this conversation to be, but damn it, you're actually saying concepts that I've been saying all along, which is everyone has a story to tell. Like that's the thing about confidence, right? Is when you're at a bar or you're meeting at someone at a networking event, someone asks you, what do you do for a living? Or if and you want to reply back in a way, something that's simplistic, that it's not going to be, you're not doing a doctorate thesis of like what the hell you do for a living, right?
Right.
What I try to explain to my clients is that if you're comfortable talking to someone at a cocktail party that you've never met before, you're usually telling a story or
Mhm.
usually reflecting it on an experience so you can relate to one another, right? Or tying some kind of, like I said, emotion so you can make that connection. I find it interesting that people can't seem to apply that to public speaking. Like the second they get on stage, they just stop and they're like freeze. So what is that? Why is it that when you're meeting someone randomly, you
Mhm.
can share every story under the sun about Billy kicking a football into a golf course? Wow. Sometimes my mind, when it comes up with random stuff, I don't know where my visuals come from,
I love
but
it. I love
but
it.
what
Go with
but
it. Is that what that's what I say.
exactly right. Well, right now, but why is it when Billy's down, you're talking about a story about Billy on stage and all of a sudden it's like Billy?
That's the oh, I see what you're saying. So it's like you can tell that. Well, first of all, you've got your nice lubricant called alcohol sometimes, right? Where people it relaxes them a little bit. I mean, I
Ooh,
don't know. I feel like it's different for all types. I feel some people are great on stage and not so great one on one in a networking situation, right? It gets really stressful sometimes when you're trying to negotiate the props. I always laugh about the props in networking events. It's like you've got the drink, you've got the plate, you've got like I hate them because I'm always hungry and I want to be eating, but I don't know how to talk and hold a cup and hold a plate and hold a napkin and then someone hand me their business card all at the same time. It just makes me want to kind of run away. So for networking events, I feel like it's so important that you're just making it about the other person, right? And that your objective isn't just to get business because it never works that way, as we all know, right? It's about
no.
developing the relationships. And I feel like sometimes when we're in those more casual, low lit environments and we let our guard down a little bit, it's easier to tell the story when we get up in front of an audience, or whether that be on stage or on a Zoom presentation. I feel like there's multiple things that are going on. One is the fear of failure. I feel like that's a huge one for people that often people won't admit. There's also the need to have to please everyone and be liked by everyone. There's the fear of sounding stupid, I hear often, right? And then there's also some of those more practical skills that just don't get developed because they're not practiced enough. Most of the time when people get up on stage and they do the deer in the headlights, or they're just regurgitating what's being written that's on the slides, it's because they're not practiced enough. They don't know their story. They haven't shared it with enough people yet. They haven't tied their message with the whatever it is that they're educating or inspiring people with. And so I often, what I will say to people is, how often are you practicing? What are you doing to practice? If you're not feeling confident, you haven't done it enough. And if you need the tools for how to own the space, then let's talk about your stage presence. Let's talk about how you walk into this space. How do you own it? Let's talk about your voice and using inflection. Let's talk about gesture when you don't know what the heck to do with your hands and why. And those things are learned skills. Confidence, I feel we all have it. We just need to own it and we need to practice it.
Oh, practice it.
Yeah.
Practice it. I think it's
Yeah.
really the critical part because you're right. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to my clients. Full disclosure, Innovation Media Enterprises produces podcasts for clients and businesses alike. If you've got a story to tell, we're happy to share it with you. At any rate, no, but here's the thing: is I can't tell you how many times I've talked to clients who are like, I don't have a voice, or even or it's not they don't have a voice; they don't know they have a voice. And there's that one question of, well, who am I to talk about this said topic? Who am I that I think I'm the expert of this particular field and genre? So let me ask you this, because here's my response, right? It's like, who am I to do a podcast is really the question I often get, right? And I guess I liken it back to, and this is no, I'm not putting any pressure for those that are non-drinkers in the world, but I do liken it back to cocktail parties and networking events. But
you can have a mocktail.
Yeah, it could be a mocktail. Sure. Have your water. It's cool. Water on the rocks in a dirty glass. That's fine. Whatever. What was that joke? It was like was it Gene Wilder, sarsaparilla in a dirty glass? Anyway, if you could, it just feels like to me, like you don't have to have this sense of imposter syndrome. I think that's another way of people are putting it. If you've got, confidence that you have a self-assurance in your like own capabilities or appreciation of your experiences, what you're ultimately doing is telling a story of your experiences and the wisdom that you've gotten or derived from it. It's not you saying, here's my way or the highway, I'm the guru, unless that's your branding. You could be like certain, people out there that say that do it my way or you're the highway. And I can't help but encourage people to say, look, there are 75 billion books that have been written over the course of, publishing. People still write books today. So don't feel like whatever you have to say is going to be invalidated in some way. Tell a story about it, your wisdom, if you will.
Right.
And that's what I kind of like reminding people is tie in an emotion and tell a story. Sure, you can say some factual things, obviously, to validate whatever statement you're making, but that's the fun of it. That's like, to me, is like that canvas, blank canvas for a painter that you could just add whatever paint you want. For us, what I'm, encourage my podcaster clients is your voice or your video, if you want to do video, but your voice is your message, and have fun with it. Sing if you want to.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, you just said a lot of great things, I feel, which is, first of all, like lean into all of yourself, like all of your sides, all of your talents, all of your gifts. Like I just actually posted I wrote a newsletter about this because I feel like for such a long time, even me, I tried to compartmentalize these different parts of myself. Like when I showed up to do a corporate event, I had this is my corporate persona, and I can't let them know too much about my weird theater background because they may not understand all of the, like I would literally play these head games with myself about what I can let in or not let out. And it was really actually quite stifling. I wasn't able to like really bring my full self forward. And if it's your story, no one can argue with your story. Right. It's what you experienced, right? So 100% to that. And you also reminded me, I've shared this before because I feel like her work is, she does a lot of work. Frances Fry, I don't know if you've heard, she's a leadership coach. She works at Harvard Business, writes for Harvard Business Review and is a professor at Harvard in business. But she talks about the triangle of trust, which is that in order to build the trust of an audience, you need to have equal parts logic, empathy, and authenticity. And I always go back to that triangle of trust in relationship to pretty much anything we do in story and or presenting. In order for your audience to trust you, in order for them to trust your brand, in order for them to trust your story, you've got to have the logic, the authenticity, and the empathy. So when you look at those three things, the logic is what you were talking about, which is, yes, you have to be credible, but then you also have to, the authenticity and empathy piece is like, that's you bringing yourself and your vulnerability and your heart and your passion to the things that you do. No one can argue with those things. So I just encourage anybody out there, if you've even thought about doing a podcast, then you should be doing it. And are you going to feel sweaty? And is it going to feel hard? Yes, it is going to feel sweaty and hard. That's a part of the process. Like I always say, be comfortably uncomfortable. And I will say, I haven't always been this comfortable talking into a camera or Like I remember when I first jumped into that Clubhouse room, I was sweating. I'm like sitting in my own house on an app. No one can see me. And my heart is racing and I'm getting sweaty. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to pop up on this virtual stage and everyone's going to see my head bubble. Like it was just the most bizarre. But then I just was like, Meredith, just show up and keep doing it. Just show up and use your voice and have an opinion. It's your opinion. And someone might disagree with you. And in fact, someone may not like you. And that's okay. And we have to be okay with that.
Oh my goodness gracious. You put it so much more eloquently than I would. Like I have a client that is also a friend that I've known over the years, and he trusts me. Like he trusted me. I told him over the pandemic, I go, dude, you're in sales. How else are you going to stand out? You can't talk. You can't see physically your clients and prospects. You better do something to stand out. And that's why I encourage every salesperson to seriously look at doing their own version of a podcast, video cast, whatever have you, because people do business with people they know, like, and trust. Right. And what you just said, it just so resonated with me because it reminds me of my client where I had to push him because when he first came out, he was very nervous.
Yeah.
But now he's so fluid. And it's so funny because now he's giving advice to others.
I love that.
It.
I love that. See, that is gold to me. I feel it's just about showing up. It's really all it's about. And what's so cool about our day and age is there are so many different ways and opportunities to show up. You can show up on a podcast. You can show up in an audio room. You can show up on social media. You could be doing TikToks every day. Heck, you could be doing videos every day and not showing them to anybody. But just as long as you're exercising, hearing your own voice out loud, it's amazing what you learn.
Oh my
you
gosh!
Record yourself on a Zoom and then just watch the recording back and go, curious.
Can I just tell you, try editing your own damn voice. Okay, look, I'm not the editor. I'm the front of the house typically, but this is like full disclosure, everyone. This is my own personal vanity project. So no sound engineer. It's just me. But anyway, try editing your own voice. You realize all your ahs, your knows, like all those filler words. And I will say sometimes working with organizations like Toastmasters helps. Full disclosure, I had a very odd experience with Toastmasters, so I'm kind of mixed on it. But
well, or you can just come to my program.
Thank you, Meredith. Let's talk about your program because
look, don't go to Toastmasters. No, you can.
Thank you, because there were some odd ducks in that crew. I'm not trying to. We are live, so let's try some more time. There are some great organizations out there, but it doesn't. Not every lock and every key fit together. Sometimes you need someone that understands and listens and is not a fracking cult. Anyway, so Meredith, let's talk about what you do, because you know what? I'm really attracted to, help is such a unique and it's such a personal thing. When someone asks for help, it is a very personal activity for even anyone to even ask for help. That's a huge bridge to gap over. So how do you help your clients, Meredith? Because there are so many people who could use your help.
Thank you. I help people in a variety of ways. I have different programs to help different people and their needs. So I have Confidently Speaking, which I would say is your Toastmaster version.
We'll just call them the T word.
We'll just call them the T word. I always say it's where Toastmasters left off. Is that a lovely way of saying it? Okay. So that's a Confidently Speaking is a group coaching program where you show up every Wednesday from 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern time. It's a live class on Zoom. I also record it. So if you miss it, you can see it. It's a membership. It's a monthly membership. It's hosted in Mighty Networks. It's an amazing community of people. I always start the first 30 minutes off with practical skills like breathing exercises for managing nerves and anxiety. We do an improv exercise. This way, what that does is it really helps you get comfortable using your voice in these different situations. And I know you took one of my improv workshops, so you know firsthand. And then we work on storytelling and content. We work on stage presence, online presence. We talk about your content and story creation. And then I have a week that's set aside for it's usually the fourth Wednesday of every month, where if you have a talk coming up or a presentation coming up, you can practice it in front of the group, because there is a lot of power and a lot that you learn from actually presenting something in front of an audience. You learn so much about the content. You get to hear the words out loud. You can then leave that space, go make the adjustments that you need to make. And then you are not, for the first time, presenting that material in front of a live audience. You've already done it once. You've had your dress rehearsal. So now when you're delivering it to those stakeholders or to your team or to those clients, customers, then you've done it already. So you're more confident. So that's that group. And then I do one-on-one coaching, and I work with organizations depending on what their objectives are and what their needs are for their teams. That's it. It's me in a package.
I'm just going to send people your way, man. Cause I love my clients. Clients, I love you. I know for those who are watching and listening, I'm not talking about you per se. I'm joking. Oh my gosh. No, but seriously though, because I cannot tell you what is it. Okay, let me ask you this, because it's really bothered me. I think I asked you this last time, but it's still bothering me. Or I was really doing a great job listening that I don't remember. Anyway, or maybe I just want to record it. Whatever.
I love it.
So I've seen a lot of amazing, those are on the speaker circuit, right? They've got amazing stage presence. They've just boom, and they just own that space. And then I see them doing a remote digital, and they suck. They just straight up. I'm like, wow, I am bored looking at you. Why does that not translate necessarily?
Because the stage and the camera are two totally different mediums. And not a lot of people who were doing purely stage presenting were necessarily in front of the camera. Maybe there was a camera on because they were recording their event, but the focus wasn't the camera. The focus was, how am I going to build a relationship with this audience in live time and space, right? On camera work is very different. Like, you even talk to actors. There's stage actors and there's camera actors. Just because you're a stage actor doesn't mean that you're going to be able to get in front of a camera and be a film actor overnight. Like, there are things. This is tricky because I feel, and I'm going to say this because I feel Zoom, right? Being here in front of like a Zoom meeting is a very different experience than like filming something as an actor on set. Those are two totally different things.
Right.
But you do need to know how to work the camera. It is not the same. It's not the same. So if you can learn the skill sets that make you a great stage performer, and learn the skill sets that are going to get you noticed and engaging properly with your audience on Zoom, then you are winning at this whole new world that we're in. Because now what people are being called to do is both at the same time. So now we have hybrid events where you're not just catering to you're having to deliver your content to an audience and to an online audience at the same time. That is not easy to do for people. It's like patting your head and rubbing your belly. Some people might, yes, naturally be able to do that. They get it. They kind of can get that kinesthetic ebb and flow between the two, but it's a skill set.
I love it.
That's why they just haven't mastered the skill set of being able to do it on camera.
On that note, then,
yes,
how important is equipment to help you articulate yourself better? Does video camera, does a microphone matter?
Yes, it does. In fact, 100% yes. And yes. In fact, I don't even think I have the best setup in the world. Right. And you better believe, look, if you're a public speaker and you want to be making some bucks doing some public speaking gigs, first of all, you should just probably get yourself into a well-lit studio with an engineer that knows what the heck they're doing and a videographer. Point blank. If you're somebody who's like, I just want to look good because I'm showing up to some of these online events, like I'm doing maybe a LinkedIn Live, or maybe I'm doing this smaller conference that not a lot of people are hearing about, but it's all online. Yes, please get yourself some lighting. Yes, get a mic, because why? We hear you differently.
Mm-hmm.
if you're not square to that screen and in that camera, if your lighting isn't very good and we can't hear you very well, or the sound is kind of, we're not, your message is not going to be, you could have the best talk in the world and you're not going to keep our interest.
Because we're going to be distracted by
We're gonna be distracted.
the delivery, the mechanism of literally what it is. And I think that's why I picked, so this week I picked this you're on stage kind of vibe, because maybe it's because of my Disney background. Whenever you're in front of someone or talking to someone or trying to debate a particular, subject, and you're trying to, hammer in your own point, you really are on stage to some degree, right?
Oh,
it's
yes.
just all the world's the stage. We're all the players.
Quoting the Shakespeare. I love it.
Not really. It's like a bastardization of my remembering from 10th grade. To be or not to be, that's the question, right?
Good. Another great quote.
You know what's funny that you mentioned that? Like when you put on like the hats, like that is so funny. Oh my God, I'm like all over the place, but this is, we can
I love
keep
it.
talking about this because
Yes.
it is so important, because again, that ability to deliver whatever the hell you want to talk about. If you want to talk about underwater basket weaving, have at it, right? But as long as you have I think the I call it the fire in the belly, the passion is really what it is. If you're passionate about talking about whatever it might be, and you are not the expert in it. So case in point, I've just recently learned about body language. I'm learning a lot about, reading body language, and it's helping me to kind of better improve my own body language. I gesticulate a lot. So I'm kind of like one of those, like, just gotta be cognizant of the fact that I'm kind of doing this all over the place, and all that. But I'm not an expert on body language, but I will freaking talk about it all day long because it's interesting.
It is interesting.
And I think that's where I'm trying to really hammer on this point, which is you don't have to be the expert of something to be able to have a good conversation, because you could be the learning side of it.
Yeah, which actually can sometimes be more value for the listener, right? So the listener has more of an entrance point if you're actually going through the thing that they're trying to also work on, right? Like I have a podcast with my dear friend Joseph Bennett called "Are You Waiting for Permission?" And it's for creatives and folks who have basically given themselves permission to live the life that they want, right? And we've also talked to entrepreneurs and people in leadership and so forth. But it's not like I have that figured out. It's not like I've given myself like full permission. Look at me, like, woo. Like, no, yes, I have given myself permission to do a lot of things in my life that other people haven't. But there's still a lot of things I haven't given myself permission for that people have. I'm still on that journey too. That's what makes, I feel like, such a rich conversation is when we can honestly just be truthful with ourselves and say, I'm not the expert, but God, I really love this subject.
100% %. Okay, so I know we're running along, Meridith, as always. Please come back. I want to keep talking if you don't mind.
Too. This is so great. Thank you.
So for those that want to get to know Meridith, I have been scrolling your website underneath, but how else can other people get a hold of you?
Well, I'm on all the socials. You can find me. I'm on TikTok at Meridith Grundei Coaching. I'm on LinkedIn. I am on, all the Facebook. Barely on the Facebook though.
The Facebook.
And barely on the Facebook.
The Facebook sucks if you're trying to promote unless you pay for their ads, by the way.
Yeah, no, I don't do that. But I'm on Instagram. I'm still in the meta universe, just not on Facebook. And then I live in New York City. If you want to do live, like if you want to do in-person training, I'm super up for that. And that's it. I think that's it. Oh, and my website, I got a website. Yeah, all the things are on that website. And it's Grundei. I'm sorry. I should have asked you in the beginning. I apologize. Grundei. It's Grundei.
Grundei.
Oh, Grundei. But Grundei sounds better. I should say it's a Meridith Grundei.
Well, what is the derivation of it?
It's German. It's my husband's.
Oh, it's your husband's
name.
Oh.
Yeah, my maiden name was Crosley.
That doesn't sound very German.
No, it's more English.
Did you do your genealogy on that? Have you done it?
I started to. That's another, I know we've ran out of time, but that's another hilarious story. Every time my mom comes to visit me, there's something new that she has found out about my family's
Is she on like Ancestry, like doing all that stuff?
Yeah, and then she talks to all the relatives. I have so many relatives that I can't even keep track of them all. And so the latest is that I have Assyrian, 10% Assyrian blood.
Assyrian.
Assyrian,
Interesting.
not Syrian,
Yeah.
Assyrian. And that I'm a
Oh,
part of one of the lost 12 tribes somehow.
look at you. Is there any? Yeah. Hey,
But then the time before that, I was part French. So I have no idea. So yes, I'm going to get that done.
no, I mean, dude, let me tell you, like, that was another fun little we definitely could be talking about. That's something I know nothing about, but I kind of like started learning how to do in my transition between corporate and entrepreneur life. I
Mhm.
putzed around trying to figure out like what I wanted to do for myself for the rest of my life. And I got into genealogy, and man alive, it's some fun, interesting things. I have a degree in history, so I already have like
I
a
love that.
context of putting things together. So when I was doing my boyfriend's family's genealogy, because it's easier to, yeah, I'm gonna say it. It's easier to do a white person's genealogy than an Asian. I'm just gonna say it right now. But anyway, it's really cool to see like how to put his family's history in context with historical events and all that. So that's why I love genealogy. But
And
anyway, on that note, Meredith, you are such a freaking rock star, and I'm so glad that we've met. And please come back because there's so much more we could talk about. Maybe next time around, maybe I might ask you to just give me one little bit of advice because I don't want you to do it now. I want
okay.
people hungry to see and get to know
Okay.
you.
Leave them wanting more. Mhm.
And also, I'm such a jackass. Is I forgot to ask you for your podcast. So we're gonna have you back so I can promote the podcast some more. But in full disclosure, I do promote my other clients and friends as well for their podcast. So if you don't mind, what I'm gonna do then is podcast this week. I want you to think about. I will always promote CISO Diaries because that's my podcast, and damn it, that's just a permanent spot. But whatevs. On the left side, though, is Beyond Bite Wings. This is one of our clients. This is the ones I've talked to where you guys, if you talk about, do I have an interesting topic, or who's going to listen to me, and why should I care? Why should I talk, and all that good stuff, and why should they care? Beyond Bite Wings is accountants for the dental industry. Could you get more niched than that? And then the funny thing is, they're interesting. They're actually really good. They're really interesting. I mean, I love those guys. So Robert, Ash, I mean, like all those guys, you should check them out. Even just from a SMB business, if you're an entrepreneur, because they're accountants, a lot of the concepts that they're talking about very much applies to SMB. So small, medium-sized businesses. So you should check them out. And they're really interesting. And you get to hear some really interesting stories in the world of dentistry, which I know sounds like tooth pulling, but it's not.
But
so there's what's that saying? Don't quit your day job. Anyway, and I'll note on this, excuse me, I do get asked all the time, why do I promote so much about the being entrepreneur and all that good stuff? Just want to add that my business partner Aaron Greger and I are the Dallas co-chairs of Global Leaders Organization. So you guys will hear me tag Global Leaders Organization all the time. It's because we're the chairs in Dallas. So we're trying to generate and support the robust Dallas community. And so if you're interested in learning more about what this organization can do for you, by all means, let us know. We are truly committed to bringing a community together around commerce, capital, and content. So hit us up if you're interested. We have monthly meetings. Our April 27th meeting is actually sold out. So the next one is May 25th. I just dated myself, but we'll just roll with that. The last Wednesday of every month, we have on-site meetings. And of course, I was given constructive feedback that I don't promote my own business actually enough. So here we go. I decided to say and share. Everyone has a story to tell. Do it with a podcast. We are Innovation Media Enterprises. We do podcast consulting, strategy, production, marketing, all that good stuff. If you have any questions, we're happy to answer it, because in this day and age, you really do need to create some kind of content, your own brand, personality. And I'm talking to, Fortune 100 all the way up to, one-man shows. Definitely figure out a way to find your voice. Whether you use this or not, we're happy to help you and grow and support you. So on that note, Meredith, thank you so much for your time.
oh my goodness. Thank you so much for having me. This has been so fun. We could talk all day. I mean, really.
no legit can. So, okay. Damn it, Janet. We're way long again. So on that note, guys, have a great week. We'll chat again. And thanks for listening to the Mike is Listening show.